it's my pleasure at this time to turn the floor over to my predecessor and still serving us as a director, Karen Schaefer from the Roseville League.
Say, Wes, thank you so much. And I extend a warm, warm welcome to everybody who is signed on to our program tonight. I wish to give a little shout out to Peg DuBoard, our Zoom hostess with the mostess. You know, somebody has to do it. It doesn't just happen. It's like an outfit, as I always say, it doesn't just happen. Now, I am very honored to present to you and to introduce to you Lesley Kandaras, who is the general manager of Metro Transit. Now, so she, as I said to Peg and Wes and a couple who were on the pre-call, she is the one who drives the bus and the train and the Metro Mo. Now, Lesley,
Oh, my bad.
oh, Lesley is a graduate of Hamline University, and she has her master's from the University of Chicago. So she's well trained. And I know that she started at Metro Council in 2012, not at Metro Transit, but in some other professional capacities. But she moved over to Metro Transit in 2019. And so between 19 and 25, she's moved right up that ladder. She has served, in addition to her initial position, she became the chief of staff, and then she was the interim manager when there was a vacancy. And they decided in July 2023 that she would be the general manager. So she's got about a little over 2 years under her belt. So I think she's had enough time to get some insights, which I hope she'll share with us. So I do wish to thank Lesley for taking time away from her family and friends and other fun things and joining us tonight. Now, our usual practice here for these CMAL meetings is we invite our speaker to make a presentation. And I believe, Lesley, that you do have a PowerPoint?
Yes, yeah, I can bring that up whenever we're ready. So.
Okay. And what our practice has been for our audience folks to put their questions in the chat. And so from your perspective, Lesley, as the presenter, I will keep an eye on the chat. You don't have to try to, be everywhere at once. And I will pass along questions to you. And I will take the liberty of interrupting you if there's a real targeted question. It's sort of fun to have a little
agree.
Spontaneity. That
sounds great.
We're not, we're a little more formal, say, than the Brennan Center or some of these other organizations. So I will keep an eye on the chat, and I urge everyone is when you think of your questions, pop them in there. I will keep an eye on them. Usually Marty, when she's here, she's an eagle eye for the chat, keeping an eye on making sure we get everything asked. But I know that Peg and Wes will do that too. So with that, I would hand you off to our esteemed presenter, and maybe Lesley, you said you would have a PowerPoint.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull it up here. It doesn't look quite right. How does that look?
Oh my goodness.
What? Okay. All right. Well, first off, thank you for having me tonight. I'm really excited to visit with you, share some updates about both present and future of Metro Transit, and really looking forward to your questions. So please do interrupt me, Karen, as we go through. Just really want to make sure this is a good use of all your time and you're learning what you tuned in tonight to learn. So I plan to just start with a little bit of an overview of Metro Transit and then spend some time talking about our Metro Transit Forward strategic framework. This is really the high-level document that articulates where we want to head as an agency. And as part of that, I'll talk about some of the changes we're in the process of adapting to. I'll highlight a few key initiatives related to Metro Transit Forward. And then again, I'm really hoping to have conversation, answer questions, just want to take this conversation wherever you want to take it tonight. So just to start off, many of you are probably familiar with Metro Transit, but just for a little background, Metro Transit is one of the divisions of the Metropolitan Council. The Met Council is a state-created regional policymaking board, 17 members, 16 of those serve geographic districts. The 17th is an at-large chair. The 7-county region includes 181 cities and townships. You'll see in a slide in a moment, Metro Transit doesn't serve all of those, but we are serving 65 cities and communities in the 7-county region. The council's responsibilities generally include transportation planning, of course, transit operations, wastewater treatment. It has a role in regional parks, regional planning generally, affordable housing, and other critical regional functions. A little bit about Metro Transit specifically. So we operate fixed route bus, light rail, and commuter rail. Metro Transit doesn't operate Metro Mobility. That's a different part of the Metropolitan Council, but of course we work closely with them. The Metro Mobility service area is linked to our fixed route network under federal regulation. So close partnership there, but not something that's specifically under Metro Transit. But we are the ones who run the buses, light rail, and currently are running North Star commuter rail. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end here. As I mentioned, we are currently serving 65 communities within that Met Council service area, and that also includes Big Lake and Elk River as part of the North Star corridor. We're a fairly big organization. Metro Transit alone has over 3,400 employees. In terms of a few other facts and figures, just to give you a sense of our size and scale, we have nearly 700 buses, almost 120 light rail vehicles, 6 locomotives and 18 passenger cars. Those are connected to the North Star commuter rail. For facilities, over 9,000 bus stops, almost 800 bus shelters, 87 BRT stations, 44 rail stations, 46 park and rides, and 22 transit centers. So again, just a few facts and figures to give you a sense of the scale of our work. And a little bit about who we served. In 2024, the last full year, we had 47.5 million rides. As you can see in that bar graph on the screen, we have in recent years seen ridership grow, but we are not back at where we were before the start of the COVID pandemic. We're roughly system-wide around 60% of our pre-COVID ridership. So a big part of what Metro Transit Forward is looking to address is making sure we're listening, learning from riders, understanding changing travel behavior, and adapting our service to ensure we can continue to build ridership and can become an even more attractive option. Just a little bit about who is riding Metro Transit. We know from our most recent transit onboard survey, and this data came from a couple years ago, but at that time, 29% of the trips were taken by riders who were between the ages of 18 and 24. About a third of the trips are taken by riders who report earning less than $25,000 a year in income. 35 of the trips were for commute purposes in 2022, and that was down from 48% in 2016. So again, gives you a sense of some of the changes we're seeing since the start of the COVID pandemic back in 2020. Top destinations, riders tell us they're going to both Minneapolis and St. Paul downtowns are popular destinations. University of Minnesota, Mall of America, and MSP Airport. Just a little ridership context generally. I often get asked how Metro Transit's ridership compares to ridership across the United States when we look at other transit agencies. So just a little information from the American Public Transportation Association. In a report they published this past May, they reported that US transit ridership is at about 85% of pre-pandemic levels. That varies quite a bit across transit systems, but that's the nationwide average, which does put us below that nationwide average. The second bullet point on here is a direct quotation from that report. Return to office policies and a strong job market both have positive implications for public transportation ridership recovery. And then that third bullet I put in there was from a different source, a Federal Reserve Bank report that came out last year that found Minnesota had one of the higher shares of remote workers in the country at 34%. And so just, as we look to understand how travel behavior is changing, how the demand for transit's changing, one factor we're looking at is if people are taking fewer work commutes, how can we make sure we're providing a service that serves a variety of trip purposes? At the same time, it shows us as we see more headlines about offices or employers returning people to the office, we're really looking at opportunities to coordinate with those employers, make sure when they're open to it that we're sharing information with their employees about transit options available to them, knowing just that there is that relationship between return to office policies and overall ridership. So just that kind of moves us into more of the focus on the future and where we want to be headed. And it's an exciting time for Metro Transit, but also very pivotal in some key ways. That includes travel behavior, as I was talking about, all those changes in travel demand and what that means for transit ridership. Our funding situation has changed. Back in 2023, the state legislature passed a transportation bill, and it was signed by the governor, that created a new 3/4 cent regional sales tax in the 7-county metro for transportation. Not all of that money comes to Metro Transit. Of that 3/4 cent sales tax, 17% goes to the counties, 83% comes to the Metropolitan Council, and then of that 83%, 5% goes to active transportation projects, and the remaining 95% is for regional transit. And so of that pot, Metro Transit receives a significant portion. The suburban opt-out providers also receive a disbursement from that. But that's a long way of saying our funding situation has significantly changed from what it was before that new dedicated source of funding. If you follow headlines from across the country, you may be seeing, specific to transit, I should say, other transit agencies are really grappling with what's often called the fiscal cliff. During the early years of the COVID pandemic, there were 3 major tranches of federal relief funds that came to transit agencies and supported transit operations at a time ridership was cratering, that revenue from ridership was really uncertain. But that money, is being spent. And for Metro Transit, we were fortunate that the state legislature established that new dedicated source of funding. It's allowing us to plan ahead in ways we weren't able to before. It's addressed a structural deficit that we would have hit this state biennium. So that's a long way of saying, and we can certainly talk more about the funding piece too, but it means we're in a moment where we're very much shifting from managing with one-time budget fixes to being able to plan ahead with a stable source of revenue and really envision a bold transit future.
So
Couple-
Lesley,
Yeah, please.
can I just ask one question? So that sales tax that was enacted a couple of years ago, and your Metro Transit gets a piece of that pie. That's just for Metro Transit operations, is that right?
Great question. So the way that sales tax comes in, it's for both operations and capital. So the sales tax law did a few things in addition to creating that new sales tax. On the operations side, it ended the county responsibility for paying for a portion of transit ways. So for example, like on this slide, we have a picture of, it looks like actually a test train of a Green Line train. But before the sales tax, both Ramsey County and Hennepin County were paying a portion of the operations costs. That the sales tax ended that. The counties now keep those funds, and we pay what had previously been their share of operations through the sales tax. But another thing the sales tax legislation made clear is that's the source of funding for capital maintenance. So before the sales tax was passed, it was a real question how we were going to share the costs of maintaining what we have already built. We do receive some federal formula funds for transit capital, but we were projecting that those would not be sufficient in and of themselves to fully cover our capital maintenance needs. And so the legislation made it clear that this funds can be used for capital as well. So that's probably a longer answer than you wanted, but it's a
Well, but it was a big change. I mean, it was an enormous change.
yeah. One thing that and I should say it's, when I say it's used for capital, it's really focused on that capital maintenance. So the major transitway projects, the sales tax has not been envisioned as a source of funds for those. But yes, it's really a game changer for us. And for many years there had been a need to dedicate funding to transit, and the fact that we saw that happen, and very thankful obviously to our state leaders for that. And really it does put us in a fortunate position compared to where a lot of other transit agencies across the country are. So, yeah. So yeah, the funding situation is a big one. I kind of bury it on that list of key dynamics, but it really has been significant and continues to be. Workforce, we are a growing system. Transit is driven by people. As we expand our system, we're growing our workforce. A few years back, we were really struggling with a workforce shortage, particularly affecting our operator ranks. So it was constraining how much service we were able to provide. We've seen a significant improvement in that. And though still are dealing with some workforce shortages and other areas. I think I have a slide on that in a moment. In public safety, as general manager of Metro Transit, there really isn't a topic I get asked about more from riders or even our own employees than what we're doing to make sure transit's a safe experience for everyone. So that's been a big focus too. So kind of given all of the change we're experiencing, the feeling like this is a truly pivotal time, we developed a strategic framework we call Metro Transit Forward. And we started developing this framework back in 2023, shortly after I became general manager. And began by really going out to talk to riders, to talk to our own employees, especially our frontline employees, to listen and learn and really understand what people's vision is for transit in our community. Again, that sales tax in particular allowed us to think ahead in ways that was difficult when our funding picture was more uncertain. So some ways we're doing this. This is a photo from something we call Great Day in Transit. Once a month, we organize staff to get out on our system, interact with riders, interact with our frontline employees. We are one of the new, initiatives that we've started is expecting senior leadership to ride a minimum amount each year, and that's part of their annual performance review. Not that that's the only way to learn about transit. We have really robust data that we look at as well, but having that direct experience as a rider helps put the information, the data, and the decisions we're making into broader context. I personally made it a point to ride every route we operate in my first year as general manager, and that was a good opportunity to connect with riders across our system. And we are starting or continuing something we started a couple of years ago, which is community listening sessions, as well as on route listening sessions, just to continue to make sure we're keeping channels of communication open with the people we serve. And that came together in this document, Metro Transit Forward. It's a very high level document. We have a lot of plans at Metro Transit. We didn't need another really detailed plan, but this is just the front side of a front and back sheet of paper. And it's where we define our vision and mission, which is we connect people, strengthen communities, and improve lives by delivering high quality public transportation. As we were talking to people about their vision for transit, it's really clear that it's ultimately about people. And while there's a lot of attributes that go into high quality public transportation, wanting to make sure that as Metro Transit employees, we're keeping ourselves centered on the ultimate purpose of this work. We identify 3 strategic priorities, and I'll briefly go through each one of these here in a moment. Employees, experience, and service. We've named employees first because those other priorities, experience and service, require people to deliver. But we know all 3 of these elements, based on that engagement we did back in 2023 and early 2024, are critical to providing the transit system that people are telling us they want to see. And because these are lofty ideas when we're talking about connecting people, strengthening communities, improving lives, another key piece of feedback we received is it's really important to be clear about what we're measuring. How do we actually know if we're doing those things? So if you look at this front sheet of Metro Transit Forward, you'll see there's a lot of different metrics in here. Overall, 2 key measures we look at are ridership and satisfaction. And that satisfaction includes employee satisfaction based on employee survey we do each year. Rider satisfaction, we're just about, I think it's in November. I don't know if it's next week or the week after, but to launch our annual rider survey. And then we also look more broadly at Metro Transit reputation through a brand survey we do every few years that goes to people who ride and people who don't ride. So anyway, this is the overall structure of where we are focusing our energy and wanting to move forward. So each of those, oh yeah, go ahead, please.
I was gonna just, if you go back to one slide in that your Metro Transit Forward document, where in there would we look, where would we find the focus on increasing ridership?
Great question.
Is there a little home for that somewhere in this grid?
It's a great question. I think the way we think about it is each of these priorities together is how we're going to increase ridership and increase satisfaction. So that's kind of the logic there. I think in particular, ridership probably draws more heavily from the experience and service investments we're making. But again, those require more people and us to make sure we have a large enough workforce, an engaged workforce, a well-trained workforce. So kind of our logic here, and it's kind of hard to see the way this is laid out, but in that measuring progress section on kind of the upper right, for me at least, where it says ridership increases and satisfaction with Metro Transit increases, those are meant to be the overarching indicators if all the work underneath it is heading in the right direction.
Right. So the theory would be by the metrics that are listed under service would be the underpinning.
Yes.
For an increased, would tend to result in an increased ridership.
Yes. Yeah. That's our general.
Okay.
Theory. Yeah. No.
This page right here just looks like a good page if people wanted one piece of paper to share with their neighbors or colleagues. This is it could be just a handy one pager.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think we have this on our website, but maybe I'll check that when I stop sharing my screen, or I'll send it to the group. But yeah, it's meant to be that distillation of all our critical work when it comes together. Yeah, results in this. So, thank you. So just to briefly step through those priorities. Again, first one, employees. And this is where we state that we value our employees and are continuously looking for ways to improve how we attract, retain, develop, and support our workforce. I mentioned bus operator hiring earlier. back in this time in 2022, we were cutting service because we didn't have enough people to operate buses. That's not the situation we're in anymore. We've now for multiple quarters in a row been able to expand our service levels because we have really turned the corner on hiring. A lot of that had to do with increased wages, but we also are investing in making sure when employees start, they have really robust training and support from day one, which we're finding helps us retain people as they're beginning their careers with us. But we are still seeing, or I should say, we still have shortages from where we'd want to be in some key areas. In our maintenance area, when we look at technicians, for example, people who need to come with, training, education in key trades, that continues to be a challenge. We are seeing some improvement this year, but we know the pipeline in many ways is tight for people who have those skills. Police is another area. We've added more police officers this year, but continue to be under the budgeted amount. I think those are the key areas. Also on our public facility side, we've struggled to hire and retain facilities workers, which has a really direct impact on how quickly we can clean and fix shelter damage and so forth. So workforce, we're seeing improvements, but still some challenges. And a big part of how we've worked to better support our employees is through focusing on organizational culture. That wasn't something we talked a whole lot about at Transit until recently, but really explicitly looking at the culture we're creating. We've established through our Great Workplace Project a set of norms, how we agree to treat each other and work with each other every day. And I think I mentioned earlier, part of our satisfaction metric is looking at an annual employee survey to track, are people happy working here? That second strategic priority was experience. So this is really where we focus on actions we believe will improve that experience for people on our system. A big part of that is continuing to implement our safety and security action plan. But there are other elements to it too. It's improving technology to plan your trip, to get real-time information. Earlier this year, we implemented a fare simplification that the Metropolitan Council passed at the end of last year to try to make it easier for people to be fare compliant. I won't spend too much time on it. I'm conscious of time. I want to make sure we're leaving a lot of time for questions, but to do just a little deeper dive in public safety, since this is an issue that I know is top of mind for so many, and we know we need to improve the perception of safety on transit if we want to continue to grow ridership. Back in 2022, the Metropolitan Council endorsed our Safety and Security Action Plan. What this slide is showing you is that 2022 action came after years of work that really started following the murder of George Floyd, and the council chair at the time saying that there needed to be a review of the Metro Transit Police Department. But ultimately, it led us to developing this plan that includes 43 action items across 3 areas of work: improving conditions on the system, training, supporting employees, and engaging customers and partners. We have this plan, and every quarter we go to the Met Council to provide updates on kind of the status of those action items, as well as the data we're tracking, and it's available on our website there. A key part of that safety and security action plan is increasing official presence on our system. We hear again and again from riders, from our own employees, that seeing somebody official for Metro Transit while you're riding or waiting to ride leads people to feel more comfortable. So that presence includes our police officers and the community service officers that are in the PD. But in recent years, we've added additional layers. In 2024, we started the Transit Rider Investment Program, TRIP. So if you've been on light rail and bus rapid transit recently, you might have had your fare inspected by people in blue. That's our TRIP agents. And that was also part of that same 2023 law that included the sales tax. So that's been a new addition to our overall approach to improving that sense of safety on our system. We also have increased investment in security at several locations. We're partnering with many other organizations to kind of supplement that presence strategy. And And then I also have a box on here for our real-time information center. Those aren't people who are like boots on the ground riding our system, but we have a very sophisticated camera system across light rail, bus, many of our stations that this team helps ensure the people who are out responding to incidents have information on.
I was going to ask you, you know, this safety issue is, of course, you can't open the media, the press, and the online information sources without talking about this issue. Do you have any sense of how our problems here with regard to safety on the systems, especially the light rail? I mean, how do we compare to other parts of the country, or is this just not or is it not realistic to even try to work on that?
Yeah, great question. I would say in general, when I'm talking to my peers at other agencies, when I go to transit conferences, public safety is a top issue with virtually everyone you talk with. So it's certainly the headlines you see here are not all that different than you would see in other large metropolitan areas as it pertains to their transit systems. It's hard, and we've looked into whether we could do a kind of an apples to apples data comparison, and we've never found a really clean way to do that. But in general, I can tell you this is not something unique to us. And I guess I want to call it the advantage of that, but it means there really is a lot of information sharing across transit agencies about what is working, what different agencies are trying. When we worked to develop the legislation that ultimately became the Transit Rider Investment Program legislation, we spent a lot of time talking to other agencies that had used non-sworn staff to do fare inspection. And since we've set up TRIP and some of our community-based work, we're regularly getting calls to talk to other agencies about what we're experiencing. So it's very much an issue facing transit agencies across the country, particularly in more urban areas. And it's also a big focus point of the current administration and the Federal Transit Administration. We're hearing very clearly from FTA that a top priority of leadership there is addressing public safety on transit. Just a couple quick numbers. Again, want to be conscious of time. A big focus with all this presence is being proactive, trying to address issues right away. And so these are just some examples of data that we've been looking at. And the reason this is Q2 2025 data is it's taken from the broader report we provide quarterly to the Met Council, and we're just getting ready to do our Q3 report here in a couple of weeks. But proactive police calls for service have increased. The number of crimes that are due to that proactive work, smoking being a key one. Smoking is the top crime on transit, at least it has been in our recent data. Other violations of code of conduct, there's been more activity to cite people for those, and just police and TRIP are on board more frequently. In terms of serious crime, we have actually seen a decrease in that. Our police department uses this category for reporting data, and they call it the FBI top 7. So really serious crimes like robbery, assault, homicide. And we're pleased to see that we have seen a decrease in Q2 of 2025 compared to Q2 of the prior year. And then just to kind of wrap up here, talk a little bit about service as that third strategic priority. We are focused, again, as we're able to hire more operators and continue to hire across the board, that's allowing us to expand service. Certainly, the sales tax is another reason we're in a financial position to be able to do that. We're investing in service that supports a variety of trip types. So a lot of our focus is on routes that run all day, that run frequently, in order to make sure it works for people, whether they're going to school or work or entertainment or doctor's appointment. and continuing to focus also on reliability. You know, when I'm out talking to riders, safe, clean, reliable are the three words that people say the most when you ask them what they want from transit. We are an expanding system. This year alone, we're adding 3 new bus rapid transit lines. Green Line extension will open in 2027. And as this box or set of boxes here show, we have other routes and engineering and planning as well. This year in particular has been historic for bus rapid transit. We opened that Gold Line back in March, B Line in June, and we're going to open the Metro E Line in December. Just to give you a sense of where those lines are, the red shade is where we're adding new bus rapid transit in 2025. And once we have all of these improvements in place with the opening of E-Line in December, 38% of the region's households with no vehicle access will be within a half-mile of a metro station. So a metro station is a light rail station or a bus rapid transit station. And 28% of the region's total jobs will be within a half-mile of a metro station. So ultimately, by investing in these particular corridors, we're strengthening the overall network and expanding access to opportunity throughout our communities. And then the final service point I wanted to share is our broader Network Now plan, which is a framework for service improvements through 2027. The baseline for the percentage points on this slide is 2023. But when we finish implementing the improvements outlined in that plan, we'll have about 40% more transit service. We'll have increased access to jobs. We'll have 8 new micro zones in place. But it's also officially ending many commuter express routes, 50 in total. So it's our overall approach looking forward and understanding how travel behavior has changed to adapt the service we're providing. And just in that context, Network Now didn't specifically include with it the North Star transition. In the news, you probably heard this year that the Met Council and MnDOT have decided to move to suspend North Star commuter rail service and begin operating bus service in January of next year. In August, the Met Council essentially amended our Network Now framework to include that change because the logic behind it was very consistent with the adaptations we are making in Network Now. Just recognizing that morning, evening, peak time commute market is very soft following the start of COVID. What people are demanding more is that all-day service that can serve a variety of trip types. And so certainly the North Star change is just an example of the continued efforts to adapt to that. And this is my final slide, just again, in the spirit of the future of Metro Transit really relies on people and the people in our region. And we want to continuously stay in touch with people about the vision they have for transit and be responsive to what we're hearing. We have a couple community meetings coming up. November 6th, I think that's just next week already, a virtual meeting. And then on Monday, the 17th in Minneapolis, we'll have an in-person meeting. The photo here, we also are doing these listening tours on the system. We just wrapped up that back in September, our most recent one, but we'll be doing it again next year as well. So, all right, that was a lot of information. Sorry, I talked longer than I meant to, but that's what I brought to share with you all. And again, more than happy to take any questions, comments you want to share.
Well, that was a highly detailed, dense presentation, but there's a lot there. And I'm assuming that you'll be able to share that with us.
Sure, yeah.
To jog our memories. But we do have questions coming in.
Yeah.
One sort of keying off of the North Star situation changed. And a question in terms of increasing ridership, is there a plan to advertise out there in Anoka County and maybe the adjoining, Sherburne and Isanti, and draw in uh, writers from that area. Do you do advertising?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Pushing out transit information. We do have a marketing department. And yes, as we're getting closer to this transition from commuter rail to bus, there is a marketing plan and communications plan tied to that. There are a couple different pieces to that bus service. So within the 7-county metro, that's our statutory territory, and also where that sales tax, the regional sales tax, is coming from. We're setting up 2 bus routes that will not just replace, but really enhance the transit service availability in those corridors. We're going to go from having 40 scheduled trips a week on North Star Rail to 379 scheduled trips a week with bus. So there'll be a lot more transit service. Now, I've ridden North Star Rail. It's a beautiful service. Buses, are not maybe the same. People who really like rail just say, like, they may say, well, a bus isn't really a substitute. So I'll just name that. We do hear that. But in terms of the frequency, the availability, and schedule, the bus schedules will offer a lot more flexibility to people. So that's a long way of saying that absolutely, we know we need to get that message out. We need to make sure people who live in and near the communities along the North Star corridor are aware that that new bus service will be available to them. Outside the 7-county metro, we had special authority to operate North Star into Sherburne County, but that was contingent on the commuter rail. So in terms of bus service for communities in Sherburne, MnDOT is planning to contract with us to continue some level of bus service there. So that part of the planning is still in the works, but just wanting to be, I know MnDOT cares that we're not leaving people who rely on North Star now without an option. So they're working to plan to contract with us to serve that area.
Do you partner in any way with the Minneapolis and St. Paul downtown business councils or other downtown oriented groups in order to work on the new pattern of ridership?
Yes, and I think it's something we can always do more of, but yes, we stay in close contact with both the St. Paul Downtown Alliance and the Minneapolis Downtown Improvement District and Downtown Council. One way we're partnering is on public safety. So earlier this year in St. Paul, we began contracting with the Downtown Alliance to have their safety ambassadors on some of our Green Line light rail platforms. And we're in conversations with the Minneapolis DID to do something similar. So that's one point of partnership. But in general, they're really important partners for us in making sure we know what like return to office plans they're hearing about, major events. We need to coordinate closely to ensure that we're providing good service to events, but also are mindful of detours coming up due to events and so forth. So there's definitely a partnership there. I think we can always look for additional ways to share information, but a lot of close coordination across staff in both Metro Transit and those organizations.
So another question, we're back on public safety, but our member here asks, sometimes the safety issue is a perception issue. That is, many routes are just fine and dandy and many people ride and nothing ever happens, but you open the newspaper and it's like, oh my God. And so do you have any thoughts, or is this even something you can deal with, the perception of safety? Because even if you improve it, if the public, and to some extent, doesn't believe it or remember it, then you've got a perception problem.
Absolutely. And I will say this is something we grapple with daily? How can, and it's challenging too, because we do have challenges on our system, you know, so it's, I don't in any way want to sugarcoat the fact there are activities that make people feel uncomfortable. There are activities that can lead people to feel unsafe. Like, I don't want anything I'm going to say after this to suggest that we don't recognize that. Again, I ride transit quite a bit. And yeah, we still have work to do on the public safety front, no doubt. And we are making more investments in that front. But the perception piece does seem to lag the changes. And I think as people who are riding, you know, comment to us, they are seeing improvement. Again, not 100% where we want to be. We still have more work ahead. But in particular, the Transit Rider Investment Program, those trip agents, people are seeing police on board more frequently. So we know that for people who are there and riding, they're starting to see that. But the real challenge is for people, if you had a bad experience on transit and stopped riding, you're not going to see that it's getting better firsthand. So I'm basically admiring the problem with you, not answering the question, because it very much is a hard challenge for us, is how do we both continue to make real material and meaningful progress as it relates to the conditions on our system, and also communicate that in a way that resonates with people and shifts the narrative. But that's an example of something like we talk to other transit agencies and look at how other transit agencies are communicating on this issue to just see, you know, what more can we be doing?
A sort of a companion question. Any comments you have on how Metro Transit deals with pressures from unhoused people?
Yeah, you know,
There seems,
yeah, go ahead.
I thought I read something in the paper about some kind of outreach in that area, but I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a big part of our work on this is we have a homeless action team. They're part of our police department. They actually started up in 2018. There's specially trained officers who work with people who are experiencing homelessness to, if they're willing, to connect them to resources. One advantage we have being part of the broader Metropolitan Council. Another part of the Met Council is the Metro HRA, which receives federal housing vouchers. And back in 2018, Metro Transit and the Metro HRA formed a partnership to connect people who are really using transit as part of their survival solution to not just get shelter for the night, but to get housing vouchers. So over 400 people have been housed through that program. So yeah, it's very much something we care about and continue to work on. But yeah, I think, you know, what I was going to say at the beginning is our police officers often will say transit is a window into the community. And I think a lot of what we experience is when our region is seeing a rise in unsheltered homelessness, it becomes very visible on transit. But we very much are continuously looking for ways we can help connect people to county resources, nonprofit resources. Just in the beginning of 2026, we're on track to bring some additional community-based partners onto our system to further support that kind of navigation work, helping people who are interested get connected to those social services in our community. But it's tough. Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, under your Network Now program and the working with commuter type routes, we know that historically those always were from the suburbs to the downtown. Now, is that still the way your agency looks at the concept of commuter routes, or are there other variations on what the meaning of the phrase commuter route means?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say within our agency, like the actual label you'll find on things still is commuter express. And that tends to be that type of service you're describing. There's a couple, I think there's a couple of variations of that, but for the most part, the answer is yes. I think what's changing with network now is we have fewer of those routes than we did before COVID. But what we're trying to do is identify key commuting corridors where we can add more service, including some midday service. Because part of what we're hearing from people is even when they do go to the office, they may not want to go in the morning and out in the evening. So can we offer some service in between those traditional AM PM peaks? And so the way we're doing that is we have fewer commuter express routes, but we're putting more service on many of those linked to park and rides too. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but it's definitely an area we're evolving based on what we're seeing in terms of demand.
Well, it sounds like a more complex system instead of just back in the day when it was
Yeah.
just park and rides out in the burbs and everybody goes downtown. You've got these commuter express routes, which are sort of a hybrid.
Yeah, I think that's right. And
so now a completely different topic here. Are some people in our group, they know some of your employees. And so maybe you could talk about the upward movement opportunity for employment. Do people who work for Metro Transit come in at an entry level in one of the functions? Are there upward mobility opportunities?
yes, one of my favorite moments at Metro Transit is when I go to retirement parties and I get to meet employees who have been here 30, 40, every once in a while, 50 years. That's like pre-Metro Transit, back to MTC days. And so it's definitely a place people can build a career. One of the areas we continue to expand are kind of those internal pipelines. So for example, developing apprenticeship programs so people can move into becoming maintenance technicians, even if they didn't start their job at Metro Transit with the vocational degree that would usually bring them into those roles. So we continue to look for ways like how we can train our own and build our own workforce. And yeah, it's a very common story within Metro Transit that people in high leadership roles have worked their way up, starting as a bus operator through another frontline role. So yeah, but it's one of those areas too, we can always, I think, get better. And we've certainly heard from employees who feel like they're not quite sure how to make that step. And one of a new position we're creating right now at Metro Transit is called an employee experience manager. And part of what we're going to have them work on is making it more transparent, like how you can get access to professional development, career development skills, how you can get into our leadership academy. Just, it's kind of never ending work, but it's something we're putting a lot of focus on.
Do you have a lot of turnover in your police department, or do you have more than average, or how does that work?
Yeah, I don't have a good handle right now if it's more than average, but like many law enforcement agencies, we lost a lot of police officers in kind of the late 2020, early 2021, even into 2022. Just, I think at the end of this year, and I feel I need to knock on wood when I say this, we should be back to where we were police force wise in 2021. So that's an improvement for us. We were really just kind of treading water there for a few years, but this year we've been able to add a few more positions. So right now, I think we're at 113 sworn officers. We have another 4 who I think we expect to swear in here yet this year. Might be a couple more in the pipeline after that. But just to give you a sense, so that's about, we'll just say today, 113 full-time sworn officers. In our budget, we have 171 sworn officer positions. So yes, we still have a gap. And so, yeah,
Okay.
I will just say, I could talk about this forever, but one of the reasons we wanted that transit rider investment program is before that started, in state law, it was a crime to ride transit without paying. It was a misdemeanor in state law. And as a result, before a trip, police officers were the only personnel that checked fares. With the trip personnel, since it's now an administrative citation, they do all the routine fare inspection, and our police department can focus on public safety emergency response. So it's really helped, I think personally, get a more efficient division of labor and allowing us to just get more eyes and ears out in the system. But
Well, the last time this group had a meeting on transit a couple of years back, it was during that legislative session when Metro Transit and Metro Council was seeking that administrative citation authority so that non-sworn people could issue citations to fare jumpers and the police could focus
Exactly.
on. So that's in place.
yes.
One more question, but on a completely different topic. I saw one tiny little mention in one of the slides on the micro service, but is it true that you can get a metro vehicle like you can get an Uber or a Lyft?
Yes, so Metro Micro, it's in very I don't know how to put it, defined zone. So it's not a service that's available throughout the metro, but Metro Micro is an on-demand service. So much like Uber and Lyft, you can request, if you are in one of the Metro Micro zones,
Okay.
you can request a ride to any place within that zone. So it's in a very clearly geographically defined area. But within that area, yes, it operates like an Uber or Lyft. So
So are those zones then, if we wanted to see where those zones were, we could look on your website?
yes, it's on, I wonder if I won't know it off the top of my head, but yes, we have on metrotransit.org, there's a site specifically for Metro Micro. We currently have 5 zones in place, and we're going to be adding additional zones as part of network now. And that's one of the areas in that 2023 legislation that we're required to spend sales tax money on. So that's, a result of that as well. But yeah, I'm worried if I start naming them, I'm going to forget one, but we have one in North Minneapolis, one in Woodbury, one in Blaine, one in Roseville, and then one in Bloomington. And then there are a few more coming yet. I think 4 more are identified through Network Now. That'll come online by the end of 2027.
I thought I saw one in Roseville just the other
Yes, you
day,
did.
and I didn't even know what I was looking at.
Yes, yeah. So that's it, Metro Micro. And yeah, it's pretty slick. It's easy to do through an app, but if you look at that website, I'm sorry, I just don't know the link off the top of my head. There's also a phone number on there that you can call, because we know not everyone has the ability to download an app. So there's ways to access it beyond that app-based service. So yeah.
Well, I don't have any more questions. We've run through quite a few, and between the questions and your detailed presentation, I think we're kind of filled up
Okay.
with information. So I do want to, first of all, I want to thank all of our members and friends who are attending and who came up with the great questions. You know, that's, we're kind of known for it, and tonight was no exception, but I also want to thank you again for taking time out. And if you would share your PowerPoint with me, then Wes and I will make sure, and Peg and all, we'll make sure that people who would like to look at it again, have a good opportunity. And I wish to thank your assistant, Liz Madej. She was very, very helpful
Oh,
in
good.
coordinating this event and making sure it worked for your schedule.
Great. I'll make sure to pass that on. Yeah, Liz.
Yes, it's
Thank you.
very, very helpful when you have great team members, you know, to support you and in the details of getting a presentation together.
No, thank you.
So, I don't know, but I would like to give you, you know, a round of applause, you know, a Zoom applause. And Wes, I will turn it back to you for any closing remarks.
Well, again, Lesley, thank you so much. As one of our folks put in the chat, this was especially very informative. Yes, you hit us with some good stats up front. Always a key. Get those stats laid down, and gives us a place to go from there. And I think for probably a number of us, Metro Transit System has been a very key part of our work lives, if not some of our regular ongoing lives. Some of us in the suburbs is probably more work. For those that live within the cities themselves, it's part of daily getting around, and we can't do without the lines that we have and the options that we have. So thank you so much for giving to us tonight of your time. As Karen said up front, we took you away from your family, and we appreciate you giving us this opportunity to poke your mind for some thoughts and to share with us tonight. And thank you. I hope everyone had as good of an evening as I did in listening to this presentation tonight.